Hello, my name is Dr. Sergio Orozco. I'm a clinical psychologist for the Texas Center for Infectious Disease. I have a doctorate in counseling psychology from Texas A&M and a BA and a master's degree from Pan American University. Came from a Mexican American family. I was raised by my parents. I have 11 siblings, and in my early years up until 14, most of my family was involved in migrant labor. We would travel from Texas, South Texas, to Colorado to work in the fields. When I graduated high school, I immediately went to my local university. I continued my education from a bachelor's, a master's, to a PhD in psychology. I was raised in the Rio Grande Valley, and I think most of my peers and the people around understood, had expectations that if you were to, one of the ways that you were going to remove yourselves from poverty or from remaining in the state that you were was to be educated. So that was pretty clearly established, by the community. That the late 70s, 80s, and I think maybe up until the early 90s, like the state, I was educated in the state of Texas, and back then, most of the state universities were supported to a significant extent by state funds, and so tuition was sort of restricted in terms of how many hours a university could charge per hour. And then after it was deregulated, then I believe college became much more difficult to pay, and so I think that was a significant change. And from that point on, I think at least some of the big universities, it was quite difficult for people to afford tuition. If there are no opportunities for you after, like, say, if you have to finish high school, if the cost of tuition is too prohibitive, then those are major obstacles. You need to be able to, if you're a good student, or if you want to move further up, the economic level, then you're going to need opportunities, if you don't have the financial resources. And I think that if the state were to, shift to more, tuition regulation and more investment in education, period, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, and college, I think society would benefit greatly. The opportunities would be easier and they would be greater if the state had, would support higher education. I think you'd have a lot more success among Texans, if they had the opportunity to go to college without being burdened by, large sums of tuition and debt.
Any advice to any young person, a teenage, maybe the early 20s that are in college right now? What would your advice be to them?
You have to have the drive. You have to have a little bit of academic skills, but you have to have a lot of drive and perseverance, or perseverance, I guess you would call it. Just the ability to stick, through with education, not to give up. Once you complete those first 2 years of college, I think that's a really big hurdle. Not to give up, to go beyond those 2 years, and then after that, I think it becomes a lot easier. Your life can change dramatically if you're well educated.
I am doing my video on the education. Hi, everybody. And this is Jessica. Jessica, you're going to be a doctor, aren't you?
Yes.
Where are you going to school right now?
Texas State.
And what kind of doctor are you going to be? A real doctor?
A PhD in adult education.
Oh, one of those doctors.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Well, anyways, and you grew up in a pretty crappy neighborhood on the south side?
I grew up in a low SES area, yes.
And somehow you made it without dropping out, or you didn't go down that route. Why not?
I didn't. Well, when I was in 6th grade, there was a student assembly kind of thing, and they had somebody coming and talking to us about going to college. And that was really the first time where I thought that I wanted to go to college.
But you had told me also that you don't think that the school really did enough to kind of prepare you for it, right? You found it more difficult maybe than someone who had better resources.
It's not so much the better resources, it's just having somebody that you can talk to. So growing up, I didn't know anybody that went to college. I didn't have any family that had ever not just graduated from college, but ever even attended college. we didn't have friends that had been to college, so I didn't have anybody that I could reach out and talk to about the process. And I think every advisor that I had been to at the collegiate level was subpar. You know, I felt like they didn't have a good grasp, but they just had, you know, their degree plans, and they were checking things off without actually really communicating about what the significance was of taking certain classes or different paths that could be taken. So for me personally, there was a lack of guidance.
You have 2 kids of your own, right? And they're both in high school?
No, I have a 7th grader and a 9th grader.
And they're doing very well because you brag about them all the time.
Yes.
What do you think is the most important, or do you think it's equal? Either the family dynamic, you and your husband raising them to do good, or the school providing programs and assistance? What do you think is the most important, or are they both equally as important?
No, they're not equally important. I think it's more important for them to be educated in the home. I think it's more important for the school system to support what's happening in the home. That my kids go to school, and they go to Harlandale School District. And I don't know how familiar you are with the district, but the community is pretty close-knit. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of faculty, teachers who work at the district that are products of the school district. So there's a lot of community engagement with that school district that I think you don't see in other districts. So I think there is that kind of involvement there, at least from my perspective. And it may be because my husband and I are involved that we see the involvement from the school side of it. I mean, I have some of my kids' teachers, you know, text me personally to my cell phone number, so I can communicate with them on a personal level if I need to.
All right, Jess, this is enough. They don't want to hear you talk forever, okay? Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Can you leave now?
Just real quick, give some advice to all the future teachers that are going to watch this video. Advice.
Don't do that.
Give advice. Hurry up.
For future teachers?
Yeah, for everyone that's going to see this thing in class.
Well, I'm not in the classroom, so I don't...
You said education, jerk.
What?
You said you were going for education.
Yeah, but not in the classroom. I don't like kids, remember?
Oh, my bad. Okay, thanks, Jess.
Uh-huh.
Bye.